There is something you do almost every day that your cat has quietly learned to dread. It takes about 2 seconds, you don't think about it at all, and for a lot of cats, it slowly turns their own name into a warning. I'll come back to it because it's the first one on this list and it's the one people find hardest to believe. Hi everyone, I'm Leo Bennett, your neighborhood cat guy. Today we're doing 11 things that hurt your cat emotionally. Not health mistakes, not feeding errors, the small, ordinary, well-meant things that chip away at how safe your cat feels around you. And I want to say clearly before we start that this isn't a video about bad owners. Every single one of these is done by people who love their cats, usually because nobody ever explained what it looks like from the other side. Cats don't protest, they don't sulk visibly or storm off. They just quietly adjust their opinion of you, and by the time you notice, it's a cat who's suddenly harder to catch, harder to hold, and spends more time in the other room. The last one on this list is the one I care about most, because it's the one cats are physically built to hide from you. So let's start with the one I opened with. You call your cat, and then something unpleasant happens. Think about how your cat's name normally works. You say it, they come, and there's usually something good on the other end. Food, attention, a lap, a treat. That word has been built up over years into a reliable promise. And then one morning you use it to get them close enough to put in a carrier, or to give a pill, or to trim their nails. And here's what your cat learns, and they learn it fast. That word is no longer a promise, it's a coin flip. Cats are exceptional at pattern recognition, and it takes remarkably few of these before they stop coming at all. So the correct way is to keep the name clean. Never call your cat to something they'd refuse if they understood it. If you need them for the carrier, go and get them, calmly, without using the name as bait. It feels like a small distinction. It's the difference between a cat who comes when called for the next 10 years and one who watches you from under the bed. And if the damage is already done, you can rebuild it, but you rebuild it by using the name for good things only, hundreds of times, until the odds shift back. Quick note before we go on. This is one chapter of a much bigger conversation about what your cat is trying to tell you, and I've gathered all of it into a book called The Happy Cat Manual over at leobennettsecrets.com. If you want more happy years with your cat, go take a look. That's all. Next, pushing them away. Your cat gets on your keyboard, walks across your paperwork, sits on the thing you're doing, and you push them off because you're busy. Here's what's happening from their side. Cats are naturally curious, and they want to be involved in whatever their people are doing. They aren't obstructing you, they're participating. So when you push them away, the message they receive isn't "not now," it's rejection, delivered by the person whose attention they were asking for. Do it often enough, and some cats simply stop asking. So the correct way is to redirect rather than reject. Gently move them somewhere nearby rather than shoving them off, and give them a warm spot next to your desk so they can be present without being on top of the work. You're not saying no, you're saying not there, here instead. And it costs you nothing but a folded blanket. Now, food. And there are two separate things here that both matter more than people realize. The first is leaving old food sitting out. Beyond the genuine health risk of food gone bad, cats have a deep instinct against eating anything stale, which almost certainly traces back to ancestors who couldn't afford to eat rancid meat. So a bowl of food that's been out since this morning isn't just unappetizing to your cat. It reads as wrong. And a cat who won't eat it isn't being fussy. They're following an instinct that kept their species alive. Serve fresh, take up what isn't eaten after 20 minutes or so, and stop reading their refusal as a personality flaw. It usually isn't one. The second is the bowls themselves. Food and water bowls need washing daily, properly, with soap, not a rinse. A bowl that's been topped up for a week develops a film of bacteria and biofilm that you can feel with your finger, and cats can absolutely smell it. Asking a fastidious animal to eat and drink out of that every day is genuinely unpleasant for them, and it's a common reason cats drink less water than they should, which matters enormously for kidney health. It takes 30 seconds. It's one of the highest value 30 seconds in cat ownership. And while we're at the bowl, stop disturbing them while they eat. Eating is a vulnerable moment for a cat. Head down, attention on the bowl, back exposed. So if their feeding spot is in the middle of a busy kitchen, with music going, kids running past, a dog wandering through, people shouting between rooms, your cat is trying to eat while staying on high alert. Some respond by eating far too fast, which causes its own problems. Others simply walk away and come back at 3 in the morning when the house is finally quiet, which is a cat telling you something about their dining arrangements. So the correct way is to give them a calm, low-traffic corner to eat in, away from noise and away from doorways, so they can put their head down without checking over their shoulder. Now, punishment, and this covers a lot of ground. Tossing them off the counter, throwing something, a swat, shouting, grabbing them and pushing their face toward a mess. And I understand every one of these because they come from frustration in the moment, not cruelty. But here's the mechanism, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Your cat cannot connect your anger to the thing they did. What they can connect it to is you. So punishment doesn't teach a cat that counters are off limits. It teaches them that you are unpredictable and occasionally frightening. And fear reliably makes behavior worse rather than better, because a frightened cat is a stressed cat, and stress produces exactly the behaviors you're trying to stop. Shouting deserves its own mention here, because people don't consider it punishment at all. Cat hearing is dramatically more sensitive than ours, particularly at higher frequencies. A raised human voice is genuinely alarming to them, and the person producing it gets filed as a threat. And you can't take your voice away between uses. It's the same voice that says their name softly at night. So the correct way is to remove the opportunity rather than punish the act. Make the counter unappealing, put the food away, give them a better option in the same place, and let the environment do the teaching. That works permanently, and unlike punishment, it costs you nothing in trust. Which brings me to ignoring their fears. The vacuum comes out and your cat vanishes. Fireworks start and they're behind the sofa for 3 hours. Someone pops a balloon and they don't come out until morning. And it's easy to find this funny or to try to fix it by carrying them over to the vacuum to show them it's fine. Don't. Cats hear roughly 1.5 octaves higher than we do, so sounds that are merely loud to you can be genuinely overwhelming to them. And fear of sudden loud noise isn't a quirk. It's survival instinct doing its job. So learn the signals: flattened ears, lowered tail, arched back, dilated pupils, and looking for somewhere to hide. When you see those, the correct response is not reassurance by force. It's giving them somewhere to go. A quiet room, a covered bed, a high shelf, somewhere dark and enclosed with an exit. Let them retreat, don't follow them in, and let them come out on their own clock. A cat who knows they can always escape becomes a braver cat over time because escape stops being urgent when it's always available. A cat who gets carried toward the thing they fear does not. And the same principle covers forcing new friendships. Somebody comes over and announces they're a cat person. They cross the room, scoop your cat up, and hold them while your cat's ears go flat. Most cats are reserved with strangers and want to handle introductions at their own speed, and being picked up by someone unfamiliar is a genuine violation of that. So the correct way is to run interference for your cat, which means actually saying something to your guests. Tell them to sit down, ignore the cat, and let the cat come to them. And here's what's funny about it. That's also the fastest way to win a cat over. The person who ignores your cat entirely usually has them in their lap within 20 minutes. The one who lunges across the room gets remembered for years. Now, neglect, and I don't mean anything dramatic, I mean the slow version, where a cat is fed and watered and housed and nothing else. There's a persistent idea that cats are solitary and self-sufficient, and it's wrong. Cats are solitary hunters, which is a completely different thing. They're social animals who form real attachments, and a cat with no interaction, no play, no conversation, and no affection can become genuinely withdrawn and depressed. And I'd add something for people with shy cats specifically, because they're the ones most often left alone. A skittish cat isn't a cat who doesn't want a relationship. It's a cat who needs it on their terms. So make yourself available rather than pursuing them. Sit in the same room, talk to them, be boring and present, and let them close the distance. And when they do come to you, keep it short and pleasant so they leave wanting more. Then there's what I'd call skipping the small stuff, the maintenance nobody enjoys. Not brushing them, ignoring hairballs that have become frequent when frequent hairballs can point to a digestive problem. Letting nails grow so long they snag on carpet and furniture, which is uncomfortable and eventually painful. Not looking in their ears even when they've been shaking their head for a week. And here's why this belongs on a list about feelings rather than health. A cat living with a mat pulling at their skin, or a claw catching every time they walk, or an ear that itches constantly, is a cat in low-grade daily discomfort. That changes their mood, their tolerance for handling, and their willingness to be near you. So the correct way is a short weekly check. Run your hands over them, look in the ears, check the nails, feel for mats. 2 minutes. It catches almost everything early, and doing it regularly means handling stays normal instead of only happening when something's wrong. And now the last one, the one I told you about at the start, and the one that matters more than all the rest combined: ignoring their pain. Because here's the cruel design flaw in living with a cat. They are built to hide it. A cat who looks weak in the wild gets picked off, so evolution has made them extraordinarily good at carrying on as normal while something hurts, which means your cat will not tell you. They'll keep eating, keep purring, keep sitting on your lap, with a mouth that aches or a joint that grinds or a urinary tract that burns every single time they use the box. So it falls to you, and the signals are behavioral rather than obvious. A cat who becomes suddenly grumpy or untouchable is very often a cat in chronic pain, not a cat whose personality changed. A cat who stops jumping onto the windowsill they've used for 8 years may have arthritis, not a new preference. A cat eating on one side or dropping food or approaching the bowl and walking away may have dental disease, which is one of the most common sources of constant, invisible suffering in cats. A cat suddenly going outside the litter box may have a urinary problem, and that one can become an emergency fast, particularly in males. A cat who starts hiding, who stops grooming, or who grooms one spot obsessively is telling you something. None of that looks like pain. It looks like moodiness, or aging, or bad behavior, and that's exactly why it gets missed for months. So the correct way is to treat every sudden behavior change as a medical question first, and a personality question second. That order matters. When your cat becomes difficult, the first thought shouldn't be what's wrong with their attitude. It should be what's wrong with their body. Get them checked, and if the vet finds nothing, then you can look at behavior with a clear conscience. So let me pull this together. Don't turn their name into a warning. Redirect instead of pushing away. Fresh food, clean bowls, quiet space to eat in. Never punish, never shout, change the environment instead. Respect their fear and give them somewhere to hide rather than proving it's fine. Let them choose new people. Show up for them, especially the shy ones. Do the 2-minute weekly check, and treat every change in behavior as a possible pain signal before you treat it as anything else. And here's what ties all of it together if you take nothing else away. Almost everything on this list comes down to one thing. Your cat needs to feel safe, and safety for a cat means predictability and choice. Predictable people, predictable routines, and the ability to say no and have it respected. Get those right and everything else follows, because a cat who feels safe with you is a cat who chooses to be near you. That's the whole relationship, and it's built out of very small moments, most of which cost you nothing at all. So tell me in the comments, which of these did you recognize? Be honest, because I'll go first and admit I spent years calling my cat over for things she'd have run from if she'd known. Hit like, subscribe, and send this to somebody who thinks their cat has just got moody lately.